Mason, how about those Baylor Bears out there in Waco? Uh, what are we looking like out there in the mean streets of Texas?
Yeah, well, Dave Aranda is heading into his fourth season out there for Baylor. And, really in 2022, they kind of took a step back from where they were in 2021 and ended up just 6-7 and 4-5 in the Big 12. Um, in Bill Connolly's SP Plus, he had him at 36 overall for 2022, and heading into 2023, he has them at 38th. So it's not looking great for the Baylor Bears. However, they were able to get a recruiting class in, ranked at 34th overall and 6th in the Big 12. That's kind of where they've been hovering, though. They're still looking for those key playmakers. Speaking of playmakers, they just lost their defensive lineman, Siaki Ika, to the draft. He was the only Bear drafted, but that's going to be a huge hole for them to fill. Not looking good on the defensive line there for the Bears. And with that, they also had 11 other players transfer out. And of those players, I think the most important one of the transfers that are leaving the program is going to be their running back, Squirrel White. Um, I don't know if it's just because his name is Squirrel or if he's actually a really good running back, but this guy totaled 637 yards last year and had 5 total touchdowns. So he was a good dynamic back, playmaker. He was good on the ground and also through the air. So that's going to be a tough one for them to replace. And with that, they also had a lot of attrition in the DB room. Good talent stepping in behind him, but behind them. But overall, it's just going to be really tough for this defense to put it together and take a step forward. And that's Dave Aranda's specialty, right? So this should be where they're really good, but it just did not materialize last season for them. So hopefully for the Bears, they're able to take a step forward on the defense. Um, some notable transfer additions. They did get a 4-star quarterback out of Mississippi State. I don't expect him to be starting. He may be pushing a little bit for some playing time, going against Will Shapen there as the starter. Um, but also, I talked about the cornerback attrition. They did pick up a 4-star cornerback out of Miami, Isaiah Dunn. He seems to be a plug-and-play player. It's just a matter of whether or not he's able to fit the scheme of Dave Aranda's defense. Can he really be a playmaker for them? We'll see in year one. And Ketron Jackson is getting a lot of buzz, a 4-star wide receiver transfer out of Arkansas. Guys over there in Texas for the Bears, they really seem to like him. So I'll be anxious to see what he does on the field for them. 13 total transferring in, opposing the 12 that transferred out. So they went +1 in the transfer market this offseason. And overall, if you look at the total numbers, they may be just a smidge better through the transfer portal this offseason.
So I see they brought in, like you said, Sawyer Robertson out of Mississippi State. So Shapen is going to get the start to start the year, but is there talks of possibly this transfer stepping in and having some meaningful playing time this year? Or I imagine you don't bring in a 4-star quarterback just for depth, and you're probably telling him that he's got a chance, right?
Yeah, I mean there are some talks of that. Um, I think it's Will Shapen's team to lose, right? He is the starter. He knows the offense. He knows the scheme. He knows the players. Um, but I mean, they're not bringing in this talent for no reason at all, right? If there's a hiccup, and I think if Will Shapen plays like he did last season, I mean, he was a sub 60% passer rating quarterback, and if he plays like that, even you may see Robertson get a chance.
Well, Dave Aranda is not afraid to pull the trigger. and he showed that in the offseason last year. Uh, and it's lost on me exactly which quarterback that was, but uh, had a hard decision to make, and he had no problem say we're going in this direction, and sorry, not sorry. So I look forward to seeing what that looks like this year.
Well, and I'll tell you, it's not looking great for Shapen because of his offensive line in front of him. He's gonna really struggle, I think, early on. They lost their four top offensive linemen by snap count. So, and we know of any position, offensive line is the one where you need that experience. You need those guys gelling together and forming that cohesion and forming that wall in front of your quarterback to keep him upright. So they did go out and get a couple of brothers. I think their last names are
Barrington.
Barrington. Yep, yep. So the Barrington brothers came over from BYU. So they're going to add. They're plug and play. I mean, they're going to add some starting experience. But again, they're going to have to gel with the other three offensive linemen. Only one's remaining from last season of the five starters. So how do they gel together? How do they work together? And can they keep Shapen off the ground? That's going to be a big question. But with the talking about help for the quarterback, he was able to get Keytron Jackson, like I mentioned, the wide receiver, and also running back Dominic Richardson is another transfer that's poised to take a big role in this offense. So that should give him a little bit of help. And maybe some playmakers he can get the ball out quick to when that offensive line does, I want to say, inevitably fail on him. Now, the schedule here, they have a pretty favorable schedule. They do draw Texas in the Big 12, no Oklahoma. Some other notable tough games is Utah, week 2, Utah.
Mm.
They get that as a home game, but I still have that as a loss. I think Utah is going to be pretty dang good
Well,
in that Pac-12.
not to turn this into a Utah review, but if I'm not mistaken, I think Utah is hosting Florida week 1.
Right.
So,
So
oh my
yeah.
goodness, that's
Well,
that's
maybe that.
quite a start off for Utah. Thank God they've got a
Yeah.
returning quarterback. My goodness.
Absolutely, and that could play right into Baylor's favor, where Utah is just they've got to be laser focused on Florida at this point this season to make sure that they bring their A game to that game, because that's going to be huge for them, bringing Florida over from across the country, playing an SEC game. But again, so maybe that plays into Baylor's favor. That's something I didn't really think about. But I've got them losing to Utah. I've got them losing to Texas. Um, UCF and Texas Tech, I think, are big question marks for them. I mean, if they could win both of those games, they could be set up for a really good season. Um, However, the other two losses I'm seeing are probably going to be Kansas State and TCU. I'm still anxious to see what TCU looks like this season. They lost a lot, so that one I may have as more of a question mark game. But outside of those that I mentioned, Cincinnati, they're at Cincinnati, against Iowa State, against Houston, and against West Virginia. So all four of those games, I think that Baylor should be able to pull away from with a W. So overall, per DraftKings, their over under is set at 7. I have them as a push, so I landed right on 7 with my breakdown of the schedule. But if I'm forced to choose, I would probably choose the over for Baylor. At UCF, week 5, I think it's a trap game following Texas. So I'm assuming that they're going to lose to Texas. Um, but a loss in Orlando could have them reeling. Um, so hopefully they're able to get over that hump and stay focused for UCF, because that's not an easy game in Orlando. But overall, I think their total range for wins is between 6 and 8.
Yeah, yeah. I could see a floor of 6 and probably a ceiling of 8, more than likely, unless it is college football, and you never know. But I do like this coach. I like Dave Aranda. I like his style. He's kind of an old soul of college football, it seems, in his style and the way that he wants to, uh, operate his defense and his team through his defense, and the run game, and uh, kind of a SEC esque uh, style. And as we can see here, they're going after SEC talent in the transfer portal. So seems like seems like Baylor, in my opinion, is possibly the fourth or fifth best in this league, and West Virginia is not going to be very good. We're going to go over all these teams, but TCU I expect to be pretty decent. Kansas State is Kansas State. They're ready to line up, and that'll be a bloodbath. Absolutely,
Yes.
that'll be a hardcore game there. And what I'm interested to see some of these clashes of styles for them, and it's going to come down to the at UCF and then Texas Tech at home going into
Hmm.
that bye week. They're going to be more than likely going to be beat up a little bit after probably more than likely I would think taking one on the chin from Texas,
Yeah.
and then
It's two
having to
two
travel
tough
to
games to follow up.
and
That's going to be
UCF. You
really
know
tough.
what's about to happen. Gus Malzahn is about to run the football, and you're going to be chasing his guys all over the field. And then Texas Tech is in my opinion, we're going to talk about them as well. But I'll go ahead and tell you right now, I think they're a bit of a sleeper. If there's a team that could be laying in the weeds and come up and take this league, it could very possibly be Texas Tech.
Yeah, I think Texas Tech is a sleeper for the general public, but I mean Vegas has them as a 7.5. Has them at 7.5 wins. So, Vegas knows what they're doing, and
Sure.
you know, I think a lot of people are going to take the under on that, and I don't know if that's the right call, um, but yeah, as you mentioned, Dave Aranda doing some good things at Baylor. He worked the transfer market pretty well this offseason. Um, you mentioned an SEC type of head coach. The only thing that he's lacking really is that um, the ability to go out and recruit like these SEC teams are doing. And he's getting the talent, he's getting the transfers coming in, but ranking 34th overall, yeah, that's going to cut it for middle of the pack in the Big 12. But got to do a little bit better, I think, to give himself a little bit of an edge in the Big 12, which shouldn't be that hard to do with the lack of recruiting that's out there outside of Oklahoma and Texas.